Greetings and salutations, loyal viewers of this channel. My name is Sean, and today we have an absolutely horrible story that is indicative of how crazy some people have gotten during this election season, and that is the election night murder by a woman of her father, apparently over political reasons, over the evil orange man winning, and honestly, I find this to be really disgusting and really terrible, and I wouldn't cover this story unless it was absolutely clear what the motivation is, and as of right now, what has transpired, what has been released, it seems like, unfortunately, this is the case. Now, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I want to thank everybody who supports this channel via actualjusticewarrior.com/join.
Give me the money. Give me the money. Okay?
They say, those neighbors say, that the daily demands of being a caretaker may have sent her over the edge. The result, she is currently locked up in the King County Jail on $2 million bail.
So the reason I decided to go with this local news segment is because if you watch this, then you won't know any of the key crucial information related to this particular case. According to the local news, look, this is somebody who worked as a project manager at Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos' rocket company, if you guys aren't aware, the one that tries to compete with SpaceX, and she just had to deal with all the pressures of being in that sandwich generation where you have to take care of your elderly father, and honestly, she snapped, and it's just a sad story for all these people who have to care for their elderly relatives. Now, to be clear, there are a lot of struggles in caring for your parents when they become sick, when they become unable to care for themselves, and that can have a great toll on somebody's mental health. I want everybody to understand that I'm not saying that isn't the case, but when you go into the details of this particular case, what you end up discovering, in my opinion, is that intro is complete and utter crap. It's nonsense, and I will explain why, but let us first hear from the local news and their interpretation of these events.
According to court papers, the first signs of trouble in this case happened when neighbors heard smashing glass. All of it on election night when the presidential race was about to be announced.
So again, the local news is saying that the neighbors first became alarmed when the presidential election was announced, and then all of a sudden they started hearing broken glass. And you guys might be confused by the framing of that. You also might be confused about how they said earlier in the video that this is related to the duties and the pressures of caring for your relative, when now they're pivoting to the election stuff. But to be clear, this is what the neighbors detected. This is why they called 911, because they heard all this glass breaking, and like they said, they weren't sure if it was anger over the election. Very interesting that that was the first thing that the neighbors thought of on election night, or somebody was breaking in.
My first thought was, are people just getting upset over this election, or is someone actually trying to break it in? Or
Prosecutors say the actual answer was much more horrific. They say 33-year-old Curry Burke smashed nearly every window in this home immediately after killing her father with an ice axe.
Again, very unusual for them to have those thoughts in that order. As somebody who works in politics, as somebody who deals with these issues on a day-to-day basis, I have to be perfectly honest with you. If I heard glass breaking on election night, my first instinct, if it was in my neighborhood, would not to be to think that it has anything to do with the election. My first instinct would be to think that this was probably a break-in or something of the sort. And I know some of you are going to say that I live in a sketchy neighborhood in New York City, but I do not live in that sketchy of a neighborhood, despite the fact that I had my car broken into recently, and when I first moved in here, my car was just stolen. You guys remember that sad tale, but I'm telling you, this still would not be my first thought.
the lights were off, and only two people live in that house, and only one of them was on the street.
This woman lives near Burke. As she watched the election results, she said she noticed flashing lights outside. She then says she noticed Burke covered in blood.
My thought was that something calamitous had happened in the household, and my first instinct was, did she kill her father with her bare hands?
So again, the local news analysis of this particular case is very superficial. They're talking from the neighbor's point of view, the flashing lights, the police showing up, and all that. But remember, in the intro to this video, I gave you the pitch of this as a potential anti-Trump murder, somebody killing their parent, and I'd like to go into this individual's history, let you guys understand who we're dealing with, let you guys understand the statements that she made to the police, because I find this to be very very troubling, but also very informative on motivation on this particular case. So we go to the New York Post and we find out that a space rocket program manager, which is our suspect, butchered her father with an ice axe on election night after a breakdown following President Donald Trump's victory. And when police showed up, she was found smiling and clapping when covered in her father's blood, according to the police. Corey Burke, which is our alleged suspect, considered the bloody rampage in which she allegedly strangled, bit, and hacked up her 67-year-old father in the $800,000 Seattle home they shared an act of liberation, according to the charging documents. Burke, 33, is a training program manager at Blue Origin's Jeff Bezos spacecraft company, according to her LinkedIn, and is married to prominent transgender writer Samantha Leigh Allen, public records show. So this is Burke right here. This is her image for those of you who are watching this, not listening via the podcasting platforms, and you can see that she has a look that is very similar to looks that we've seen among leftists, not to mention the fact that she works in a tech company, a rocket aerospace company, in a non-tech related position, and in addition to that, she is married to a transgender activist and author. Allen is the author of the acclaimed book Real Queer America, LGBT Stories from Red States, and the editor at Them, which is a transgender news publication. Now again, remember what the local news segment actually told us this was possibly about. Somebody dealing with the stresses of living with their parent, and I just want to point out that the court documents do not reflect that at all. When you look at the language very carefully, when you understand what this person's political orientation was, when you take it in the context of election night, when you understand that her father is a 67-year-old white male, very likely to be an evil orange man supporter, you kind of get a better picture in your mind of why this crime went down this night and why this woman was laughing and cheering after she committed this horrific murder. Again, let us look at the evidence as presented in the charging documents.
Prosecutors say that that is exactly what happened, except the killing also involved an ice axe. All of it after they say Burke snapped at her father for simply turning on the lights inside this home.
When things like this happen, the whole neighborhood gets traumatized.
Burke has now been charged with first-degree murder.
The killing was meant to, quote, help people change their attachment to their parents and, quote, had to happen today. Burke told police, her face covered in her father's blood, according to court documents. Burke had been upset about the election and knew Trump handily beat Vice President Kamala Harris when she allegedly snapped, apparently when her father, Timothy Burke, refused to turn off the lights. Now look, in one of my recent previous videos, we talked about the push from people like Joy Reid, that Yale psychiatrist, Sonny Hostin, and a great number of other lefties into the idea that you should just abandon your family members, cut them off for Thanksgiving, cut off contact from them, and obviously this is one of the most extreme manifestations of that. But when you think about it, it's not that unusual. Imagine you're a crazy leftist. You live in unreality where the evil orange man is Hitler. You find out your father is a Hitler supporter that's going to go after all the different various transes, while at the same time your spouse is a transes themselves and a prominent transes, even though I never heard of this person. You might be pushed with all that media propaganda getting into your already mentally fragile state into something crazy like this. And of course, the attack was incredibly vicious. Again, we go to the Post article. She then went upstairs and grabbed an ice pickaxe, tripped her father, choked and bit him on the floor, and struck him repeatedly with the blunt and sharp end of the tool, according to police. Burke sat down next to her father and watched him die, then smashed all the windows in the house, which she described as an act of liberation. Again, that leftist language being used repeatedly, according to the police. When cops arrived, they found Burke clapping because she was happy. Burke told police that she had a strained relationship with her father without strong quote-unquote boundaries, and that had left her feeling, quote, hyper-focused and disorganized. Now, she later described the dispute with her father over lights, eventually whispering, quote, I killed him to one officer, according to the charging documents. Now she's being held on first-degree murder charges on $2 million bail. Again, this is just sad and depressing nonsense. There's another story that maybe I'll cover on this channel as well, where a man ended up killing his family that lived in another place away from him because he didn't have custody of those kids, then came back home and ended up killing his other kids that he did have custody of before taking his own life. And this is over the panic, the hysteria related to the evil orange man winning. And I will just just point out that the evil orange man has already been president before. People have already lived through this, and all the terrible things that the media was promising you did not occur. They did not come after you. They did not do all these Hitlerian things. So it's just sad. And of course, a mentally ill person, somebody who's married to a trans activist, who has been indoctrinated with leftism, is more vulnerable to this. Now, of course, there's probably strains in the relationship with her father that are unrelated to politics. They keep talking about the lights not being shut off. This sounds like, to me, maybe they were trying to turn off the TV or then the lights so that the father could go to bed, because the snap apparently happened right after the evil orange man declared victory.
And a check of criminal and court records show Burke has never faced serious trouble with the law before. Her father, by the way, was 67 years old.
But what I really want you guys to think about in this particular story, and of course, the less dramatic version of this, where you cut off your family members from Thanksgiving or whatever that these other lefties are pushing, is the cult-like mindset. And again, that this is also over politics. Politics was never supposed to replace religion in our society. It was never supposed to be this divisive among family members along personal lines. You can have your political beliefs. You can have people that disagree with you around you. But the idea that you're going to result to murders over a regular, ordinary election, to me, is crazy. It's madness. And it just goes to show you how wild our politics have gotten. So everybody needs to take a step back, especially if you're on the left. Stop freaking out. Stop panicking. Remember that Trump was president from 2017 to 2021. All the crazy chaos that you're imagining did not happen during that period of time. So take a chill pill, relax, and honestly, shut up. Shut your face. This woman destroyed her family, ruined her life, ruined her spouse's life, and for what? Another 4 years of Trump's presidency that will not be changed no matter what this person does? Insane in every possible way, but what do you expect when all this propaganda is out there? Somebody at some point is going to lose their mind. And I talk about this on my channel as somebody who's very worried about this, even coming from in my audience. I never advocate for violence. I never want people to take what I say out into the streets and hurt people or anything like that. So I try to be conscious that there might be somebody who's mentally unstable, listening, waiting for a sign from me. And guess what? You're never getting that sign from me. Relax. Go get help. Chill the hell out. It's not that serious. Yes, politics are important. Yes, it impacts you. Yes, it can impact your day-to-day lives. But as I always emphasize on this channel, more than presidential politics, your local politics actually emphasize your day-to-day lives. So this outsized focus on who's the president of the United States is incredibly unhealthy. And this is one of the most extreme degrees of that unhealth. And again, for Kamala Harris, you took your father's life because Kamala Harris lost? She's a loser. She's a clown. She's ridiculous. And you're going to do this for that? Insane. But you know what? Those are just my thoughts. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you like the video, show them by leaving a like. Subscribe for more content. Follow me on my social media. Support me via the support links in the description of this video. This has been me talking about the absolute madness in this particular case. Till next time.